Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. It is now Women's History Month, plus it's my 2-year anniversary, plus as of recording this episode, I have 500 subscribers. I can't believe there's 500 of you that want to watch me and that want to follow the journey of learning obscure women in history. Just thank you. Thank you for 500 of you. Yes, it's small compared to like 15 million subs, but for me, it's big. And I'm excited for more of you to come. And I'm excited to show you more women that I have in store for you. Speaking of new ones in store for you, those of you who have been here from the beginning know that I have been riding horses for 20 plus years, and they hold a large part of my heart. Now, there's plenty of women to discuss. Today, if you can't tell by my earrings and my shirt, I want to feature something different. So for my 2-year anniversary and the beginning of Women's History Month and the celebration of 500 subscribers, because this is my channel, I can do whatever the heck I want to do, let me introduce you to a female horse that was an instrumental U.S. Marine soldier during the Korean War, Sergeant Reckless. Let's get started. 500 subscribers and I'm talking about a horse on my channel. I'm really excited right now. Reckless was born Ah Chim Hai, which translates to flame in the morning, in June of 1948 in South Korea. Her first owner, Kim Hook Moon, bred her for horse racing and named her after her mother. Tragically, Flame's mother died in Kim's arms from a fever just a week after giving birth to Flame. Devastated and blaming himself for her death, Kim couldn't bring himself to care for Flame. So a fellow jockey friend offered to have Flame raised by one of his mares who had recently lost her foal 3 days before. Flame and Kim wouldn't meet again until November of 1949. By then, Flame had grown into a strong, smart filly, a young female horse. Kim immediately fell in love with her once again and decided to bring her back home. As he began training her for racing, he quickly discovered that Flame possessed extraordinary intelligence, a level of smartness and curiosity he described as almost human-like. Flame proved to be an exceptionally eager student, and training her was practically effortless. Remarkably, whatever. You know what I'm saying. She only needed to be taught something once or twice on a challenging day, and she not only mastered it, it stayed with her. Flame's determination to help showed from a young age. When North Korea invaded South Korea on June 25th, 1950, Kim, like many Seoul residents, fled the city with his family to escape the bombings. Around midnight, they reached a ferry crossing point packed with thousands of frantic refugees. Rather than deal with the chaos, Kim decided to search downstream for a shallow crossing point. Finding a suitable spot, he unhitched Flame and led her to the river's edge. Kim will later say that Flame understood exactly what he was asking of her. With a loud snort, she carefully waded into the dark, cold water. Kim gripped her mane while his older sister, Jung Soon, held onto her tail. Luckily, they reached the opposite side of the bank safely. After Jung was situated, Flame and Kim returned for the others. It took 3 more exhausting trips back and forth to transport Kim's family across the river. Though Flame's sides heaved with increasing fatigue on each crossing, she kept going. The final journey was to get their supplies, rice bundles, clothing, and sleeping mats. By the end, Flame stood trembling and struggling to breathe, nearly collapsing from exhaustion, yet she had managed to carry everyone safely across the river. When they finally returned to Seoul in spring of 1952, they found much of the city in ruins, including their home. Despite their damaged home, the family made do, and Kim brought Flame back to the racetrack to resume their racing career. At this point, meet U.S. Marine Lieutenant Eric Peterson, commanding officer of the 55mm recoilless rifle platoon, 5th Marines. He needed a can-do horse or pack animal to help his men carry ammunition over the rugged terrain and possibly through enemy fire. On October 26, 1952, he and 2 other Marines first visited the Army purchasing mission, but found no mules or horses for sale, so they decided to go to the Seoul racetrack. Kim and his jockey friend Choi had just finished giving Flame a rub down after a run when the Marines drove up in a Jeep with a trailer hitched to it. When they announced they were looking for a horse to carry ammunition, Kim's first instinct was to hide Flame, but it was too late. Choi was already leading the Marines to the stalls. Eric, who had grown up around horses and had a pretty good eye for them, offered to pay in American cash, which went a long way in Korean currency. As they walked down the aisles, they saw many good horses, but none caught his attention until they reached the 5th stall, Flame's stall. To his surprise, he and Flame instantly clicked. After inspecting Flame, Eric asked for the price. Sorry, my cat. I noticed a lot in my last video that you could hear my cat's collar jingling a lot. I apologize for that. He likes to be around. Choi asked him how much they were willing to pay. Eric offered $150. Insulted, Choi lectured him about Flame's superior bloodline. Eric countered with a final offer of $250, making Choi pause. Completely understandably, Kim didn't want to sell Flame. However, he was stunned when Choi told Kim, because he couldn't understand English, that the men were willing to offer $250 American dollars. See, a few months earlier, Kim's sister Jung had lost her leg when a worker stepped on a landmine when she worked in a rice field. Jung was working next to the person who had unfortunately lost their life when they stepped on the landmine. Kim had promised her and confided in Choi that he would somehow get her a prosthetic. Given how expensive prosthetics were, Eric's offer meant Kim could finally buy his sister a new leg. Which, I didn't do the research. $250 for a prosthetic leg? Pretty crazy. With and I know for a fact, titanium heavy heart, Kim accepted the $250. He asked for a moment alone with Flame to say goodbye. Behind the closed stall door, Flame rested her head on Kim's chest as he held her close one final time. Fighting back tears, he helped load his beloved horse into the Marine's trailer and watched her disappear down the road. Once they were gone, Kim went back into Flame's now empty stall and collapsed in tears. Oh, that hits home. The platoon loved Flame. They cherished her. The Marines renamed Flame Reckless after the recoilless rifle she would be carrying ammo for. At just 13 hands high or 4 feet 3 inches tall at the withers, which is, if you feel the ball of your neck, that's basically the withers on human spine thing. Ow. She was the perfect size for her mission. For the first few weeks after her purchase, Technical Sergeant Joe Latham became Reckless's trainer and drill sergeant, putting her through what he actually called, and I'm not making this up, hoof camp. Instead of boot camp, it's hoof camp. Oh, I'm really happy right now. Joe led her up and down hills with ammunition on her back to build her strength and endurance. He acclaimed her to the sounds of battle and taught her to navigate obstacles like communication lines and barbed wire. But here's the most insane part, besides everything else. He taught Reckless that when someone yelled, "Incoming!" she needed to run to a bunker and hit the deck. I love this so much. She even learned to take cover in a trench. She was able to find her way back to her fellow Marines by herself if they got separated, and she knew hand signals. Horses are very, very smart, trust me, they really are. But the fact that she knew hand signals? Dude. Joe said about Reckless, quote, "Reckless was no dummy. She had her own bunker. When incoming started, we'd scramble into ours and she'd head for hers. Although there were a few times when she thought ours was more convenient. Nobody complained." One day after training, Joe poured a Coca-Cola into his helmet and offered it to Reckless. I'm laughing because I've seen this. Reckless loved it so much that sharing Cokes with her fellow Marines became her daily ritual. But that wasn't her only beverage of choice. She developed quite the taste for beer. I knew of a horse that loved White Claw. Can't remember exactly the flavor, but she loved White Claw. Sergeant Michael J. Mason remembered, quote, "She loved beer, and it didn't matter what brand it may have been. To her, beer was beer, and she loved it. If we had a ration of beer and were sitting around drinking a few, Reckless would trot over, nudge you in the back until you tipped your can up for her to lick up the beer. She'd drink from the can, and I'm sure a lot dropped, but she wouldn't stop until she had enough. Then she would stagger back to her stable to rest, or should I say to sleep it off." Let me tell you about Reckless's ferocious, incredible appetite. Reckless loved food. Before I dive into her unusual tastes, let me quickly explain a horse's typical diet. They eat hay, alfalfa, or grass. They have grain that mostly consists of oats, corn, barley, and wheat as a type of supplement. They can enjoy treats like apples, carrots, and sugar cubes, but like humans, horses can develop their own favorite foods. I've had horses with quirky preferences. One loved ice cubes, while another loved blueberry otter popsicles. I've seen horses that love fruit roll-ups, watermelons, even Sour Patch Kids. But Reckless, she was on a whole other level. Her ferocious appetite knew no bounds. Like I said, she happily guzzled beer and Coke. However, she also devoured candy, Hershey bars, cake, chocolate pudding, peanut butter sandwiches, and mashed potatoes, but breakfast was her absolute favorite meal of the day. I personally can't blame her. I love me my breakfast. I cannot function without my breakfast. She started her mornings with scrambled eggs, bacon, and a few pancakes, and would wash it all down with a warm cup of coffee. And heaven help you if you ever ignored Reckless. Reckless would make her presence known by eating your hat, biting you. One time she ate her blanket, which is a lot more common than I would like to admit in the horse world. I've spent a lot of freaking money on new blankets for these horses. Another time she consumed $30 worth of Joe's winning poker chips, and apparently, she didn't like dogs, but she mainly didn't like goats because to her, goats were the same thing as dogs. Being a horse girl and having her fair share of seeing horses' very unique personalities, I can completely see this. The Marines in her platoon saw her as one of the boys. Navy Corpsman Robert Doc Rogers fondly remembered how Reckless was integrated into the unit during his brief time with her platoon. He recalls, quote, "Sometimes the guys would be standing around talking and she'd walk right up to us and just stand there. And somebody would be talking and she would look at him. And the other guy would start talking and she'd look at him. And another guy would start talking and she'd look at him. It was like, hey, I'm a Marine. I'm one of you." She had the right of way around the compound and she knew it too. He also remembers how fiercely her fellow Marines defended her. Quote, "One night, a bunch of us were all standing around in a circle talking. There was a Marine lieutenant there. Lieutenant Louis was his name, and he was of Chinese ancestry. And while we were talking, Reckless came up behind this one soldier and nuzzled the back of this guy's neck. Nipped him on the back of his neck. It scared him half to death, and he screamed, 'What the flip?' I can't say that word, and jumped and turned around. He's right face to face with Reckless and shouted, 'Get that mother effing nag out of here.' Lieutenant Louis exploded on the guy and said, 'That horse has done more for the United States Marine Corps than you have or ever will do. And besides that, she outranks you. If I ever hear you talking to that horse like that again, I'm going to have you written up and court-martialed.'" And I'll explain what I mean by she outranks you later on in the story. But that just shows how much they defended a freaking horse. These are tough Marine dudes, and they're saying, don't talk to the horse like that. You'll understand why. Reckless's long-awaited baptism by fire came in late November 1952 at a location the Marines nicknamed Headley's Crotch. Yes, near the villages of Changdan and Quatchan. I hope I pronounced those correctly. I'm sorry if I didn't. The journey began by motor vehicle and ended with a trek on foot. As soon as Reckless stepped off her trailer, which I just need to say this is the most gangster horse trailer I've ever seen in my life. Do what you gotta do, Marines. Bring the horse. They literally just put her in a wheelbarrow and duct tied it to a horse. Get that horse there. As soon as Reckless stepped off her trailer, her demeanor changed. She knew something was different as she was led up the steep hill loaded down with ammunition. When she reached her post and the first shot was fired, the boom echoed throughout the valley. Despite carrying about 150 pounds of ammunition, Reckless leaped straight into the air, like all four hooves off the ground level leap into the air. She landed with the whites of her eyes showing, and she was understandably shaking. But Joe was there, and he quickly calmed her down. By the second shot, she merely just in response. As the mission progressed, Reckless's fear transformed into curiosity. She tried to eat a discarded helmet liner, and she investigated the big gun that she was named after. After learning her supply route from a handler, she began making the trips on her own. Back at camp, the Marines rewarded her with a beer, because you gotta. When rain began falling that night, Joe welcomed her into his tent, where he dried her off and covered her with a blanket. Then she quickly dozed off contentedly by the warm stove. She had passed her first battle test magnificently, maintaining composure under fire. By all intents and purposes, Reckless was now officially a Marine. Joe, a 14-year veteran of the Corps, would later say that he had never worked so hard with or felt more proud of any recruit. It's just so cute! I love it. Over the next few months, Reckless participated in several notable raids, with Raid Tex and Operation Charlie standing out as particularly memorable. During Tex on January 31st, 1953, Reckless faced a unique challenge. She had to awkwardly transport 150 pounds of ammunition back and forth along a trail spanning about 0.2 of a mile, or just over 1,000 feet, from sunrise to sunset. Operation Charlie on February 25th, 1953 was an even more intense mission, requiring 5 full-blown rehearsals due to its complexity and need for precise execution. After completing this successful mission, Reckless was completely exhausted. Though she managed to eat slowly after receiving a rub down, she quickly passed out afterwards. This raid further demonstrated her unwavering dedication to her Marines, which to her was basically her herd. While she was already performing at the level of any other Marine, her finest hour is still yet to come. Here we go. Reckless's finest hour came during the Battle of Panmunjom, Vegas, or the Battle for Outpost Vegas, from March 26th to the 30th, 1953. This would become the bloodiest battle of the Korean War and one of the most intense conflicts in the United States Marine Corps history. Very basically, Vegas was one of the 3 outposts collectively called the Nevada Cities, defended by the 1st Marine Division. The Chinese People's Volunteer Army, or PVA, launched an attack on the Nevada Cities on March 26, 1953, aiming to strengthen their position in peace talks at Panmunjom and secure additional territory for North Korea. Freaking long story and a half short. The PVA managed to capture one of the outposts. They were ultimately driven back from Vegas, and an estimated 1,000 Americans died during the battle. That was a criminally basic explanation, but it's crucial basic context for what's gonna happen. On Thursday, March 25th, 1953, Reckless and her platoon were posted at the Nevada City's outpost, enjoying a peaceful day before battle suddenly erupted. One thing you need to know about this post is that it is surrounded by steep hills and a heck of a lot of trees. And Vegas was located on the far corner of the outpost, and it was very critical. If this outpost fell, the other outposts were very likely to follow. The attack came without warning. Approximately 14,000 artillery shells hammered Vegas, forcing everyone, including Reckless, to seek cover. When the bombardment finally subsided, the enemy had won the first battle. The next day, Friday, March 25th, the platoon regrouped and came up with a plan, and Reckless became an incredible, insurmountable role in this battle. Before dawn and continuing for the next 5 days, Reckless was loaded with 8 recoilless rifle projectiles, 3 on each side and 2 on her back, totaling a staggering 192 pounds on this little pony's back. She navigated treacherous terrain, climbing and descending a steep 45-degree incline, weaving between gun stations. Her journey from the ammunition supply point to various gun positions ranged from 550 to 700 yards. All the while, enemy fire rained down at her at an intense rate of 500 rounds per minute. I cannot explain to you in this video the magnitude of her contribution to this battle and the deep love her comrades had for her. One remarkable instance, she shielded 4 Marines heading to the front lines. She got them there safely, and in return, they gave her their flak jackets. You know, their body armor, throwing them over her, risking their own lives to protect hers because she had selfishly and instinctually really protected them. Reckless would carry many wounded soldiers down the mountain to safety. When she was sure they were secure and safe and being cared for, she would get reloaded with ammunition and head straight back into battle. This constant back and forth movement at full throttle, might I add, would exhaust her, but she remained unwavering. Though Reckless would be fatigued beyond human comprehension, as long as they loaded and unloaded her, she kept going, kept pushing forward. Her sense of duty to her friends, comrades, Marines, her herd was simply inconceivable. She was wounded twice, first by shrapnel above her left eye, which did slow her down, and later by a hit to her back flank, basically this fleshy part of you. Ow. But yet again, she refused to stop. That actually kind of hurt. Each time she returned to the supply point, they would restock her and they'd watch her go on another mission. The Marines thought each trip might be her last, but she kept shockingly returning every single time. Her fellow Marines kept fighting simply because she wouldn't quit. The fact that she survived the battle virtually unscathed was nothing short of astounding. Oh, and did I mention that she did all these trips, carrying the things, running between the gun post positions, stations, whatever the heck you want to call them, with gunfire on her for 5 days straight by herself? Nobody rode her. She was not led. She was just loaded and she took off, and she knew every single point she had to go to. The visual, because you guys know I love movies, the visual I would like to give you is, think of that scene in War Horse where Joey, the main character horse, is running through no man's land and there's just bombs and stuff going on around him, but he just keeps going. Yes, he's running out of fear, but that visual can give you a good visual of what Reckless is doing. Let me break down just how insane Reckless's contribution to this battle was, if I haven't already. In a single day, she made 51 trips back and forth, once again, by herself, carrying 386 rounds of ammunition. That's over 9,000 1,000 pounds of ammunition. To put that into even more perspective, that's almost 5 tons of ammo that she transported over 35 miles of rice fields and steep mountain cliffs, weaving through trees, weaving through everything. All the while, 500 rounds per minute of enemy gunfire is coming straight at her. No horse animal before or since has come close to matching what Reckless accomplished. Her selflessness and bravery were seen and honored by not only endless love and copious amounts of beer, which I duly respect, but from her fellow Marines promoting her to corporal. Let's go. Of course, that made her the first horse ever to become corporal. Yeah. Harold Wadley, who was there during the battle, recalls Reckless's miraculous survival. Quote, "I never thought she would survive. I figured she'd end up dead, but there was an angel riding that little mare's back every single time she went up and down Vegas. No doubt about it." When the Korean War ended on July 27, 1953, Reckless has served her country valiantly, and the Marine Corps wanted to properly honor her. So, for her insane efforts in the Battle of Vegas, she received an immense array of decoration awards. This is awesome. 2 Purple Hearts for wounds sustained in battle, a Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, a Korean Service Medal, the United Nations Korea Medal, a Navy Unit Commendation Award, Republic of Korea Presidential Unit Citation, and Presidential Unit Citation with Bronze Star. Go girl. She proudly wore these awards on a blanket with a French Vorget that the 5th Marines had earned during World War I. Even more incredibly, on April 10th, 1954, 9 months after the war ended, Reckless was transferred from the 5th to the 1st Marine Division. Then, I'm still going. Commander Randolph M. Pete gave her another battlefield promotion, this time from corporal to sergeant. Sergeant! Let's go, bro. A horse is a freaking sergeant. Let's go. A horse is a sergeant in the Marine Corps 1st Division Army. Yes! To top it all off, she received an adorable red and gold blanket with the insignia of sergeant. And she looked fabulous. A week after now Sergeant Reckless's promotion, the Saturday Evening Post published an article on April 17th, 1954, titled "Reckless, the Pride of the Marines." This article captured America's heart and sparked a movement to bring Reckless to the States. Because, and I'm gonna see if I can remember this correctly because this just popped back into my head, the Army was perfectly fine to kind of leave her in Korea, and the people were like, this girl is an American U.S. Marine, Sergeant Marine. She needs to come home. She needs to come home. Now, this is, of course, not an easy feat, since the Marines couldn't exactly transport a horse in the cramped bunkers of a naval ship. But fortunately, the article caught the attention of Stan Coppell, an executive at Pacific Transport Lanes who, like countless other Americans, fell in love with Reckless and her story and fully believed that she needs to come to the U.S. because this is a freaking United States Marine. Stan offered to transport her for free on one of the company's ships from Yokohama, Japan to San Francisco. On October 22nd, 1954, Reckless boarded the SS Pacific Transport and arrived in San Francisco on November 10th, 1954. And can I just say, doesn't she look adorable? She's strutting her little blanket. She's all like, look at me, I'm here. Ooh, what is all that? Getting paparazzi on her. And she's freaking posing. The horse is posing. She knew she was famous. Of course she knew. When she arrived on U.S. soil, I would like to think that they planned this. On the day that she arrived, November 10th, is the same day the Marine Corps was created. And what better way to celebrate her arriving on U.S. soil, her insane contribution to the Marines, than to invite her to attend the Marine Corps birthday ball? 'Cause why the freak not, dude? Why not? To get to the ballroom, Reckless rode in an elevator up to the ballroom, and I really hope it was one of those golden ones, not like the transport dock staff elevator thingy. You know what I'm talking about. And in classic Reckless fashion, when she got there, she proceeded to eat both the flower decorations and people gave her a piece of cake. And these photos just make my heart so happy. When Reckless arrived in the United States and after the ball, she settled at Camp Pendleton in Southern California. There, she became a mother to 4 foals, 3 colts named Fearless in 1957, Dauntless in 1959, and Chesty in 1964, and 1 filly born in 1965 or 1966 who sadly passed away after just 1 month. Chesty was sweetly named after Chesty Puller, one of the very few Marines ever granted the true privilege of riding Reckless. Before retiring, Sergeant Reckless received one final promotion. On August 31st, 1959, at Camp Pendleton, she was promoted to Staff Sergeant. General Randolph personally presided over the ceremony, where Reckless received honors befitting her wartime heroics with a 19-gun salute and a spectacular parade of 1,700 Marines, including the members of her wartime unit. And can I just say, I found footage of her getting her little staff sergeant little pin thing on there, and doesn't she look so cute with her little baby there? It's just so adorable. And of course, this made her the first, I don't know if it's the first female, but I do know it is the first female horse to become staff sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. So that's a freaking win for women. Staff Sergeant Reckless retired on November 10th, 1960 with full military honors. I'm really happy. Since the Marines couldn't provide her with the traditional retirement payment in money, they offered her free board, which is basically rent, and feed instead. And I love this photo I found with them holding a bag of oats with a giant $sign on it. I'm really happy right now. And I have horse earrings and an awesome USA horse shirt on. It's just a good day. In later years, Reckless developed arthritis in her back and hip, but despite her discomfort, she lived a flourishing and rich life at Camp Pendleton, being thoroughly spoiled by her fellow Marines. On April 13th, 1968, when Eric Peterson Jr., son of Eric Peterson, came to feed Reckless, she didn't come as usual. He and a friend went searching and found her in a devastating state. She had fallen through a barbed wire fence into a ravine. Already struggling with arthritis, a lame left back leg, and laminitis, tender feet, the injuries from this fall proved to be too severe. Despite emergency surgery, Staff Sergeant Reckless died on May 13th, 1968 from her injuries at the ripe old age of 20 years old, or at the age of 60 in human years, having lived a full life for a horse who had served her country greatly. The news of her death made front-page headlines across the country. Staff Sergeant Reckless received full military honors and was laid to rest at the Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton Stables in Oceanside, California, where a stone memorial stands at the stable's front gates. At her memorial ceremony on November 20th, 1971, Camp Pendleton's commanding general at the time, Major General George S. Bowman, Jr., reflected, quote, This memorial that we dedicate today will ensure that others will know that the Marines value courage and devotion to duty, and by knowing what we value, they will know who we are. She could have balked and refused to make those treacherous trips up and down the hill. A lesser animal would have done so. Reckless's legacy continued to grow long after her death. In 1997, Life magazine included her on their list of America's 100 all-time heroes. On July 26, 2013, one day before the 60th anniversary of the Korean War's end, a life-sized monument was unveiled at the National Museum of the Marine Corps, depicting Reckless carrying ammunition shells and equipment. The monument's plaque features a touching quote from Sergeant Harold Wadley, who had served alongside her during the battle. Quote, "The spirit of her loneliness and her loyalty, despite the danger, was something else to behold. Hurting, determined, and alone, that's the image I have imprinted in my head and heart forever." In July of 2014, Robin Hutton's book, Sergeant Reckless, America's War Horse, topped the New York Times bestseller list, sparking renewed global interest in Reckless. On July 27, 2016, Sergeant Reckless was awarded the prestigious PDSA Dickin Medal, often called the Victoria Cross for Animals. This is the highest honor any military animal can receive. On November 14th, 2019, she made history again as the first recipient of the Animals in War and Peace Medal of Bravery. A memorial to Reckless was dedicated at Yongchang Gordapulgu History Park, close to the battlefield where her finest hour took place. After Reckless's Marine Corps National Museum monument, 5 more monuments of Sergeant Reckless were put up all over the country. Monuments now stand at Marine Corps Base Camp Pendleton, put up in 2016, the Kentucky Horse Park in Lexington, Kentucky in 2018, the National Cowgirl Museum Hall of Fame in Fort Worth, Texas, revealed in 2019, and a particular meaningful memorial was installed at Barrington Hills Farm in Illinois in 2019. This farm works with veterans with PTSD and pairs them with horses for healing, making Reckless a perfect symbol for the courage and strength both horses and veterans have. The most recent monument was erected at the World Equestrian Center in Ocala, Florida, unveiled in December of 2020. It's so pretty! A final monument is currently under construction in South Korea, scheduled for completion in 2025. It is being erected in South Korea as a sense of a full circle moment for Sergeant Reckless. If you would like to contribute a donation to this final monument, you can through the link I'll below. You can through the link I'll put below in the description. I'm making words up. I've made my own donation. I have skipped many incredible moments in Reckless's extraordinary life. The book, this one, details her story in depth, and I relied on it for about 95% of my research for this video. It's really cute. This thing has been well loved. After Reckless passed away in 1968 and the media coverage of her death faded, she slipped into obscurity like many forgotten war heroes. However, thanks to the dedicated Marines who knew her has kept her memory alive, and thanks to the persistent efforts of Robin Hutton and many others, Staff Sergeant Reckless has rightfully reclaimed her place in modern herstory's spotlight. She was truly unique, a horse with the heart of a Marine and famously the appetite and thirst for beer of a Marine. Though particular about her preferences and relationships, she never hesitated to support her fellow Marines in combat. She gave everything she had to keep her Marines supplied and protected, and they honored her with unwavering dedication. As Robin perfectly captures on the book's back cover, she wasn't a horse, she was a Marine. Yay! There you go. The very obscure, and I can't even say you have to be in the horse world or even in the Marines to know this, just the very unique story of a horse that was an instrumental part in the Korean War. And it was a girl. Come on. And it was a girl. Girl, come on. And if you get this book, which I really do suggest you do, at the back, I got these like trading cards. And I love these so much. I'm going to frame these things because I love these things. I love it all. I love it all. I love it all. Yeah. If you learned something today, and I really hope you did, please like, share, and subscribe to this channel. And while you're down there, please leave a friendly comment. I will see you with my next video. But until then, do not be well behaved. You just might make history. See you next time, gals and guys.